Welcome to today's Thought for the Day from a very sunny London and a very sunny Tower of London. I want to start by welcoming many of our friends who are overseas. I know there are people listening to this in Australia, Hong Kong, Crete, in Europe here, in France and Germany. And there are two regular members of our congregation, Martin and Veronica, many of you will know them, who are presently and have been for some while stuck in America. And we look forward to seeing many of you back here once the chapel is open and when we can all travel about with much more freedom. And there is light at the end of that particular tunnel. This week's been quite a busy week for me, unusually so in this time of pandemic. But it's all been associated, let me say, around various deaths, I'm sad to say. Last Friday, I conducted a memorial service on Zoom for Fernando, a member of the Tower community who worked in the shop and died very suddenly. On Monday, I conducted the funeral of Rustam Patel, married to Rachel, a regular member of our congregation. My neighbour, as many of you know, Dr. John, also died last week. We're very sad as a community about that. And then, in all of that, I was asked by one of the deputy governors of the Tower of London, Debbie Whittingham, if I could hold a small service of thanksgiving for her dog Merlin, who was buried in the famous pet cemetery in the Tower of London. 4 different kinds of events, but all associated with some form of death. Now, as I was preparing for this, I of course turned to those references from the Bible which help people to think through those times and moments. And one of them that I always turn to is from the reading of John chapter 15. And in verse 9 it says, "As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love." Associated often with funerals, memorial services, is the hymn by Henry Light, "Abide with me." And it's in connection with that word abide and this season of Lent that struck a chord with me and that I'd like to share with you today. Now, we don't often use the word abide. Think, when was the last time you used the word abide? We tend to use the word stay or remain, something like that, rather than the word abide. Now, there are many stories associated with Henry Light, the Reverend Henry Light, and why he wrote the hymn, "Abide with me." One of the best and one of the ones I like most of all is that he was a clergyman, first of all, in Ireland before he came over to England. And one of his friends, another clergyman, was dying. As he sat with his clergy friend who was dying, his friend looked up at him and said to Henry, "Henry, abide with me. Henry, abide with me." After he had died, Henry Light turned to the words from Luke's Gospel, chapter 24, verse 29, where the disciples turned to Jesus and said, "Abide with us, the evening tide is coming." And from those words, Henry Light wrote that famous hymn, "Abide with me, fast falls the eventide." Now, how do we abide with God? How do we abide with God? And what's the association of that with Lent? Well, here's a suggestion for you. Here's something that you can do. I have been saying to everybody, most of us are not giving up much for Lent because actually we've given up a lot in the last 9 months. Now, there's nothing wrong if you've given up coffee, tea, alcohol, chocolate, sweets. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. But I am encouraging people to do something. And how would you like to abide with God? So here's a suggestion. Psalm 46, verse 10. Those lovely words, "Be still and know that I am God." Find a quiet moment in the day. Make sure you know those words, "Be still and know that I am God." And then with 5 sentences, repeat those words. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be. And keep repeating that, and keep repeating that. Christians have believed, and I believe, and others have believed, that that kind of mantra, repeated and repeated, slowly, prayerfully, a pause between each verse, will help us to know that we abide in God's love and that God abides in us. It's a two-way thing. Not just that we abide in God, but that God abides in us. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know. Be still. Be.